Hey guys, Marsengan here, bringing another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so today we're going to do the team building guide for the INT Future Gohan EZA that is going to be releasing on both versions of Dokkan in basically 12 hours from now if you're watching this as soon as the video goes up. This video is going live 9 PM UK time, right as my late stream for the day ends. So yeah, 12 hours from now, if you're watching this as soon as it goes up, the EZA is dropping in both versions of the game. We are getting things like the new Infinite Dragon Ball History, the new Red Zone stage, 2 hours before that. But the EZA and I think the burst mode for Vegeta and Trunks as well comes out 2 hours later. So, in Future Gohan, from everything we know from the data download, we should be getting a mission update as well, just like the Part 1 EZAs, where by beating this Extreme Z battle, you will complete a mission in order to get the medals so that you can EZA the Tech Trunks, so you don't have to replay a bunch of the stages. So obviously that is definitely very good, something I really hope they continue to do on past the end of the worldwide celebration, because it just makes doing these sub EZAs so much better. So it will be a standard 30 stage EZA. The specialist weakness category is androids. We haven't yet seen, or from what I can see, the data on like which one of the typings is potentially going to have the massive damage reduction. It usually is a typing that has type disadvantage, and then maybe one other one as well. So I'm probably not going to focus on too many tech units for this team building guide, unless they are ones that can provide some good utility, because there are definitely a couple that you could consider. But yeah, otherwise we will be going through my standard team building guide process, taking a look at the androids category, going through my top picks and honorable mentions. If there's any units that I missed out or you think I should have talked more about, let me know down below in the comment section. And of course, if you do find the guide helpful at all, do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So there are a ton of leaders that you can potentially use. We'll start off with some of the ones that will be the most effective for the whole team. And those are the ones that, of course, can offer a 200% leader skill. So the AGL Cell leads Android/Cell Saga or Power Absorption, and then gives a 30% extra to androids. So this guy, definitely one of the more common leaders you'll probably see. Has returned on banners quite a few times now, so probably do have at least one copy of this guy at this point, unless you are a newer player. He can be very good. Not super great in the shorter events, right? Because you want to get his transformations and get his full power unlocked, which you're probably not going to see much in an EZA. Like if he's on turn 1, he's not going to be perfect cell until turn 5, which most of the time in an Extreme Z battle, you're either done by turn 5 or turn 5 is the final turn. So you're not going to get to see his full power, but he can still be very effective. Puts out decent numbers, and of course he is mainly there for the leader skill, if nothing else. And then of course androids has a couple of different ways you can choose to build the team, whether you want to focus more on the actual cell units themselves, or if you want to go for the other androids. If you want to go for a cell heavy team, then of course having the cell as the leader just gives you another unit that everybody can link very well with. So this guy definitely a very, very good option for your leader. And then the other one to consider is, of course, the STR-17s. Now, these guys have not returned on Global at all yet. So if you didn't summon on their initial banner, which was a pretty bad time, right? Because it wasn't long before the anniversary. You know, these guys will be good. Joined Forces or Target Goku, and then the extra 30% being androids. So most, but not all, of the android units that are the main players are on Target Goku. And there are a couple that are on Joined Forces that aren't on Target Goku. So there's quite a few of the units that you can fit under this leader skill that will be very good. But this guy has a similar kind of issue to Cell, where really to get their full power, like you're probably never going to see them transform into Super 17, right? Because you have to get to turn 5 and you have to be at 70% HP or less. And chances of you still being like in the game at turn 5, very unlikely, but I guess you could potentially get Super 17 out as just like the finisher, but yeah, probably not very likely to see Super 17. But these guys will work very well in this event because we do have a super class enemy, so they are getting their full buffs, they get an extra super attack, they obviously build up dodge chance by attacking, so they can be very, very good in the event as well. Next up we have the Gamma 2. So Gamma 2 has an android's leader skill. And then his 30% is accelerated battle, which there's not many android characters on there that like the other like cells and 17s and 18s and stuff like that. So the majority of the units will be getting his 170 lead, but he is a very, very powerful unit, able to build up to some pretty ridiculous numbers once he gets going. And of course, you can combine him with the STR Gamma 1. He leads movie heroes or artificial life forms. So artificial life forms does cover a lot of the androids as well, although not all of them. But obviously, if you have both, running them together is an incredibly powerful rotation, right? This guy's super good defensively in slot 1, and then this guy goes off and just does tons of damage in slot 2. They will be very, very good for this event. The only reason I would probably say against bringing this guy is if we find out one of the categories that will do less damage against Gohan is AGL as well as Tech. Because obviously this guy's kind of only on the team really for the damage numbers. So if he's doing 80% reduced damage, then obviously it's not really as worth bringing him. Whereas this guy, even if STR was a typing that did barely any damage, you'd still want him because he's really good defensively. So the Gammas are definitely a solid option. Next up, we have MVP 17. So with his EZA, he obviously is a full 170 lead for androids as well. He also is physical, so he's got type advantage. He gives all allies a defensive buff as well as key. So he's just very, very good, regardless of who you're running as your leader. If you can fit him under their leader skill, then you are probably going to want to do so. Like, there are a few teams that, unfortunately, you can't. Like, for example, the SCR-17s. This guy's not on Artificial Life Forms or Target Goku, so he doesn't fit onto a couple of the team builds, but he certainly is a very, very good unit. If he can fit under the build that you're running, I probably would recommend running him 100%, right? If only for the support, if nothing else. But, I mean, he can do decent numbers damage-wise with some of his links active as well, so definitely a top pick, and he can be doubled up as one of the better leaders. If you're not running a 200%, then full 170 is your next best bet, right? So definitely very, very good. Then next up we have the physical cell. So we've kind of moved on to units that are good on the team and not so much the leaders now. Obviously physical LR cell, type advantage. In EZAs you can't use items, so if you do find yourself taking a lot of damage maybe in the later stages, you can deliberately go for his 12 key super and then get the heal, or you just go for the 18 key, do bigger numbers, get a bigger defensive buff. And then he definitely will be very, very strong in this event. I mean, with good RNG, right, you're getting the 18 key and then getting an additional super as well. So doing extra damage and getting the heal. So this unit, I would say, as long as you're not running a team where he would be like the only cell unit, so he would miss out on a few of his links, I would say he probably is a must run for the event, right? And then of course right next to him, arguably much better than him of course, but right next to him is the INT cell. Of course, with EZAs, again, as we've already mentioned, not being able to heal, if you're finding the later stages a little bit more difficult, the fact that this guy will transform at 40% or less HP and give you a full heal is not only very, very useful, but then, of course, he transforms into this absolute beast, who then will do a ton of damage, very good defensively. I mean, you get this guy out at all, and it is basically GG. So he's not only good for his overall damage and everything. I mean, even in his like pre-transformed state, for something like an EZA, which obviously not the hardest content in the game by any stretch anymore, right? Definitely will still be very effective. But yeah, if you are struggling a little bit towards the end, he's going to be even better with the heal, and then of course transforming into an even more powerful unit. So these two together are definitely an absolute monster rotation on this team. Like, imagine running double physical 17s so you can run any androids you want, and then having one rotation of these guys and the other rotation of like Gamma 1 and 2. It'll be an absolute cakewalk, right? So very, very strong units. Then we have these guys as well, who will be very, very good for a support. Good free-to-play option as well. I mean, they are a pain to get fully awakened if you're starting it all over from scratch. But nowadays, with Dokkan events costing less, boost existing and stuff like that, it won't be as terrible as it was way back when they first released. But because you're fighting a superclass enemy, they do get their full buffs, including the potential for the extra super, and they do raise defense on all of their supers. They're also giving the allies a bunch of support. So these guys will be very, very good on the team as well. Again, going back to like that double physical 17, you'd be floating both of them. You'd then float these guys as well. They're all supporting the rotation each time they come into slot 3. These guys will be very, very effective for this event as well. I think even if AGL is a typing that isn't going to do a lot of damage, these guys would still be very useful just for the support. They'll do a little bit of damage, and then obviously they'll have very good defense. So definitely could be worthwhile. I think I would probably focus on a unit that gives attack support over just defense support, though, if it did turn out that AGL units weren't super good in this event. So that's something to bear in mind. Then we have these guys, right? So these are, I think, one of the only tech units that I'm going to mention, which is, of course, the tech Future 17 and 18. And, of course, I'm sure you all know the main reason for this is the active skill. Activated when facing only one enemy whose HP is 35% or more. So, I mean, literally, whether these guys are on turn 1, turn 2, or turn 3, I mean, turn 3, you might have done a bit too much damage by then, especially in the early stages, but these guys come onto the first rotation, use their active skill to take all the enemy, take away all the enemy attacks, and then just put them in slot 3, float them off, and chances are, before they even get a chance to come back on the next turn, like 3 turns later, the enemy's dead, right? So these guys, very, very good. They change orbs, so you can give them a whole bunch of tech orbs to give you some healing as well, which is very useful. I'm pretty sure Future Gohan has a normal... yeah, he doesn't have a Ki Blast super. He doesn't when he awakens either. So unfortunately, their nullification won't be very useful. But definitely very, very good for the active skill. I mean, these guys, you see these guys get run off lead in easy A's that they're not even good in just because of the active skill, so that people can get to like ridiculously high stage numbers. So these guys definitely a very, very good choice. Then we have these guys here as a interesting free-to-play option, the Android 8 and Android 17. These guys are a unit that can fit under some of the different leads, like, for example, the STR-17s. They're not on target Goku, but they are a joint forces unit, so they do get the 200% leader skill from him. They do have guard for the first 8 turns. I mean, they have type advantage anyway, so it's not a huge deal. The only thing about these guys is they don't have the best links. They have things like Android Assault. Some of the other androids have like Infighter and Tough as Nails. They won't share a ton of links, but Android Assault is probably one of the best Android links anyway, right? 2 key and 20% defense at level 10. So these guys can be a very solid free-to-play option as well if you need one. Then, of course, we have my queen, the ultimate Dragon Ball waifu, Android 21, with her EZA. Definitely can be very useful in an EZA. As we've already mentioned, you can't use items to heal. She recovers HP on her super attack. She's another unit that has big bad bosses, so she certainly can be very useful. Obviously not a top tier unit in the category anymore, but definitely can be useful. And if you are running a bunch of the cell units that have big bad bosses, then obviously she fits in very nicely on the team as well. When she transforms, you then start healing at the start of the turn. Just overall very, very useful unit, right? So definitely worth considering. Again, if you're struggling in the later stages, maybe need some extra heals and stuff, she can certainly be very useful. Then we have the STR Android 18 from the Barbershop. She's a very good Android unit for supporting an Android team. She gets all of her stats like per Android ally on the rotation. She also builds up with each attack that she performs. And when you have an Android's ally in the same turn, you get a built-in chance to additional anyway. So on a full Android turn, she can super attack 3 times. She's pretty decent. She doesn't raise defense on super, unfortunately, but her stats for a free-to-play unit are somewhat decent, especially after you've built up her passive. And again, EZAs, remember, not the hardest, so definitely a good option for a free-to-play support unit. Then we have the STR second form Cell. Kind of goes back to what I was saying before about if you're kind of building the team with more Cell units. Obviously, this guy supports Android/Cell Saga Extreme Class allies. So some of the units that we've talked about so far wouldn't be included in that. But if most or all of your team are going to be Android/Cell Saga, then this guy probably feels like a no-brainer to add into the team because he's giving that massive support to all of those units, right? Then next up we have Jiroan 19. Jiroan 19, very, very good. Raise attack and defense on super, heal with their super attack. Unfortunately, they can't absorb the super because Gohan doesn't have Ki Blast, but they support Android allies for 3 key 40%. Their stats are pretty decent after they super attack. So these guys just are very solid overall. They don't heal based on the damage they do, so even if INT was going to be one of the typings that wouldn't be very effective against Gohan, these guys would actually still be very useful because they're good enough defensively, they're supporting everybody else, and then they're still healing at 10% with their super, even if their super's not really doing any damage. So definitely very, very good. Then we have this Android 16. Now, if you are running a almost full Android/Cell Saga team, right, he just needs all the allies in his turn to be Android/Cell Saga. Then he has the high chance to guard. That can obviously come in very, very handy. This guy can be a very good slot 1 defensive unit when there are a full Android / Cell Saga allies with him. So he certainly is worth considering for the team and is another good free-to-play option. Like, the most powerful versions of the team are probably using like most, if not all, summonable units. But some of these free-to-play options like this 16 are very, very good as well. We have these two that will go very well with the STR 17's team build, the Android 17 with the trench coat, and then the Hellfighter 17. Both just very solid units after their EZAs. Both obviously require a unit with 17 in the name for them to reach their full potential. So they are very, very good if you are running the STR 17s. And then we have the LR androids. Now, these guys desperately awaiting an EZA so they can be relevant in the meta again. But for something like this, where they've got type advantage, they're in the specialist category, they have built-in chance to dodge, they're supporting all the android category allies, I still think these guys can be worth using. They're obviously not going to be in any way, shape or form the best unit on the team or anything like that, but, you know, they should be pretty decent. They might even be able to tank super attacks reasonably well. And then, of course, you can exchange into 16. We've got 2 or more android allies on the turn, so it's when HP is 66% or less. We're not fighting an enemy whose name includes Cell. If you do manage to transform into 16, then he is actually still pretty good defensively in an event like this, where it's not super tough and he has type advantage. So if you were in the later stages starting to struggle a little bit, you take some damage in the first turn, and then you can get this guy out straight away, he will be very, very good defensively. So going back to the category, I actually cannot believe I did not have this page opened already. I should be ashamed of myself as a Super 17 fanboy, but obviously, it goes without saying, that's why I didn't even think to bring the page up, but AGL Super 17 will be very, very good here. Not the Tech LR, he's a fraud, and he's got type disadvantage, so we don't talk about him. But this guy somehow manages to stay relevant, despite being a unit that came out in 2017 and got his EZA in 2020. He still somehow manages to remain relevant as one of the few good defensive androids, so he will actually be very good on this team as well, especially under the 200% leader skill of the units that he fits under, because he's on power absorption, he's obviously on target Goku, so he's on both the 200% leads that we talked about at the beginning with the Cell and the 17s. So this guy, absolutely, definitely a top pick for the team for sure. So yeah, androids category, I tried to go through as many of the top picks and honorable mentions. Like I said, I didn't really talk about many tech units. There's a lot of units that would be okay, like Android 13 provides android support, but he's just very old now. Probably wouldn't get you killed, but is definitely not like a top pick for the team. As I already said, we avoided most of the tech options, even though the units like this World Tournament support Cell are pretty good. The EZA 18 with the INT 1 and then the STR 17 are okay, but they're probably not top picks either, really. The free-to-play Android 13 is a pretty decent pick as well if you are limited by your summonable options. But yeah, that is the Android category, my top picks and honorable mentions. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. And as I said at the beginning, if there are any units you think I missed out or should have talked more about, let me know down below in the comment section. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Master Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below for the Discord and the merch store, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.